Greetings to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Engineer Sheikh Martin's YouTube channel, and I welcome you as well to database management systems and warehouses. I encourage you to subscribe, like, share, and comment. If you subscribe, you won't miss any new video that I upload. Click on the notification bell. Give a comment about the content that I normally upload for you. If you want me to improve something, if you are happy with something, just put it in the comment section. Alright, this is just a continuation on what we have been discussing before. So I will just open the document here to show you the questions that we've tackled so far. We've talked about entity integrity, referential integrity, domain integrity, the writing and execution of these SQL statements, and the footnotes, giving rights to a user, revoking rights, creating the users themselves. And now we want to talk about writing SQL statements to do some computations. So that's what we are up to at this moment in time. Right, so the first question reads, write SQL statements to compute the following, which is question 1E. And then item 1 states number. We are supposed to compute the number of complaints that were lodged by customer ID 0001, which were resolved. So as you read the question, and we have our database tables, you can read, we want to count or compute the number of what? Take your question into parts or partitions or segments. So we say number of complaints. And where can we get the number of complaints, or where are we counting these complaints from? From a table called table complaints. So we are counting the number of complaints. Therefore, we have the word count. We are going to count the number of complaints. But we are not just counting the number of complaints. These complaints were lodged by customer. And to refer to the customer, we use the customer ID. But we are not counting all the complaints, but we are counting the complaints lodged by a specific customer who is having a specific customer ID, which is 0001. But when we are counting the complaints, we count the complaints which were lodged by a specific customer who is having a specific customer ID. When we count them, we are not just counting all of them. This one client may have lodged 10 complaints, but 1 out of 10 was resolved, or 9 out of 10 were resolved, or 3 or 7. So we are here to count only those that were resolved. But those that were resolved, where do we find them? We find them from table complaint resolve. So the table complaint resolve, that's where we find the condition which says that this complaint was resolved. So table complaint resolve consists of only records of complaints which were resolved. Right. So now we want to count the complaints from complaints table, referring only to a specific customer ID. But these complaints must have been resolved, meaning to say we are dealing with two relations or two tables here, or two entities. So how are these two entities related now? As the referential integrity we talked about in one of the earlier video tutorials. Now we have complaint ID in table complaints. That's what we are referring to from table complaint resolve. So we want to have, so in simple terms we are saying all the complaints which were resolved exist within table complaint resolve. So complaints with ID CID 9000 and CID 1001 are the only two complaints which were resolved. So if we go back to complaints, we then check to say, is CID 9000 is complaint with complaint ID CID 9000, was it lodged by customer with customer ID 0001? So because CID 9000 was resolved, which is what we are looking for, but was it resolved by, was it lodged by customer with customer ID 0001? Then we see that here CID 9000 was lodged by client with customer ID 0003, which means that this, we are not counting this one. Then we go to the next one that was resolved, CID 9001. 9001 was resolved, but who lodged 9001? It's customer with customer ID 0004, meaning to say we are not counting it. Therefore, the complaints lodged by customer with ID 0001 is lodged by customer with customer ID 0001 is just one, and it was not resolved. Therefore, there are no complaints that were lodged by customer ID 01 which were resolved. So that's it when we are having few records like this. But if we have millions, thousands, even hundreds of records, we cannot do this manual counting. But we need to know a technique on how to merge or join these columns and write a comprehensive SQL query that can give us the correct and best results. So I will then move on to show you these tables, as you can see here. You can see here we have table complaints here to our left, and then table complaint resolve to our right, and then these two are combined or are linked through complaint ID. So let's now go and write our SQL query in our SQL query editor. Where is my SQL query editor here? It's not there. All right, here it is. Now let me write now the SQL query. So we were saying we have let me say we have a join. We have a join. So what do we want to count? We want to count the number of complaints. So let me do like as if I'm starting. We want to count what? The number of complaints. So counting the number of complaints. So I will say select, and then we use a function called count, and we are going to count everything, right? So we are going to select count, but where are we selecting this from? We are selecting this from table complaints. Why are we saying table complaints? Because we are selecting from table complaints over the number of complaints, and number of complaints we get them from table complaints, right? So we have to write table complaints there. From table complaints, right? If we execute this, it's going to give us all the complaints. It's going to give us the number of complaints that we have, and then we have 3 complaints, which is this is our result over there, right? So we have 3 complaints, but we don't just need complaints in general, because the question is asking us to count the number of complaints that were lodged by customer ID 001. So to count the number of complaints which were lodged by customer ID 0001, we will say from this where customer ID is equal to 0001. If we do this, we will see all the complaints which were lodged by customer with this ID. So this is the number of complaints which were lodged by customer 0001. So now let's come back to the question, which were lodged by so we are done calculating the number of complaints lodged by customer ID 0001, but we want only those that were resolved, only those that were resolved. So we are now saying this one, was it resolved? So we now need to look for CID 9002 from here. So we are now looking for that. So what we can do is we can now just say, before we put this clause, let's join these tables. Since we have where is it? Since we have this join over there, so let me now put the join there, inner join. We are joining it with the table. What is the name of the table that we are joining it with? It's called table resolve complaint. No, table complaint resolve. Table complaint resolve. So we say table complaint, table complaint resolve, right? Inner join on that way, on that on this table. So when we say on, we are now saying we are joining these two tables, linking them through the use of complaint ID. By this we are saying where complaint ID of table complaints is equal to complaint ID of table complaint resolve. When we are saying join this, when we say on, we are putting a condition to say we join these two tables where complaint ID of table complaints is equal to complaint ID of table complaint resolve. So that's what we're going to do here now. We say join on this dot complaint ID is equal to this table dot complaint ID. Now we put the condition. So I hope and think that this select query will give us the number of complaints, that were resolved but lodged by customer this. So let me run this and expect to get a 0. Yes, we get a 0 from there, meaning to say we have counted the number of complaints lodged by customer ID 0001 which were resolved. I guess nobody is having a question about this. Right, so we are done writing that. So that's the query that we'll have over there. We say select count. So count is just a function. Where I'm saying star is just all the columns, but you can put only one column over there. And then we are saying from table complaints inner join table complaint resolve on table complaint resolve dot complaint ID is equal table complaints dot complaint ID, where table complaints dot customer ID is equal to 1. You got your 6 marks for that. So that's it for item 1. Now the next question is saying complaints which are pending and the number of days they have taken without being resolved. Meaning to say we are going to compute the complaints which are pending. Meaning to say just to display the complaints. Where do we get the complaints from? From table complaints, right? Therefore, we're going to select from complaints. But what are we selecting? All those complaints which are pending. So meaning to say every complaint that is pending, it doesn't exist within table complaint resolve. So that's why we have pending over there, and then it mustn't exist within table complaint resolve. All complaints that are not in table complaint resolve but are in table complaints are the ones that we are supposed to display. Meaning to say we are going to have CID 9000 not displayed because it exists in table complaint resolve. CID 9001 we're not going to have it. So we're going to display only CID 9002 because it's the one that is not resolved. It's the one that is not existing inside the table complaint resolve. And then there's another condition which needs to be there's another calculation that needs to be done. And the calculation is the number of days they have taken without being resolved. Meaning to say we have observed that CID 9002 is the one that was not resolved, right? And then we are now calculating how long since the day it was lodged up until now, how long has it taken to before it has been resolved. So in simple terms, we are saying how long is it from the day the complaint was lodged up to now. How many days from the day when the complaint was lodged up to now? How many days? So that's the calculation we need to do for the one that we would have, for the one complaint that we would have gotten as the one that was not resolved. Alright, so the number of days. So the query that we're going to write is going to calculate, to subtract the complaint date from the current date. Complaint date from the current date, so that we get the number of days. And then so meaning to say we're going to have two queries, one that is going to give us the complaints which are pending, and then from those that are pending we need to calculate the number of days. We subtract the complaint date from the current date. So that's the query that we are about to write. Right, we write it here. Let me do this. Right, so the query that we need to write, we need to select everything. We say select all what? Select all columns, and then we use a function called get difference. Here we are going to use two functions within a function. So the first one is going to say we want to subtract date, right? So date diff subtracts date B from date A, like this. So subtracts date B from date A. So what is our date A? Is current date. So we use another function called current date. So we get the date, the current date, which is today's date, and then we want to date diff here, not the date, right? And then here we say table what? The date diff. We want to subtract which date? The complaint date. Table complaints dot complaint date. So here, if we terminate, it's supposed to give us all the columns plus another column which is a date difference. I hope it's going good. No, it's not. No tables used. Okay, we haven't said from which table, so we are getting this from where? Let me just say enter, and then say from complaints, and then try to execute it and see the results. Alright, so it's not table dvm complaints, does not. Oh, table here, table complaints. What should I? Alright, okay. From table complaints. Okay, here I'm saying table complaints, which is the table, and here I'm saying complaints. So I need to say table complaints here, and then here say alright. So let me try to execute that and get right. So it's giving me what? The number of days here, 725 days. So this is the number of days between today and this date, between today and that date, between today and that date. So we've managed to get the number of days, but we just want the number of days for this, and all these other we don't want them, right? So what we're going to do next is we now need to exclude all other records which are not pending, all other records for complaints that were resolved, because we want those that were not resolved. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going now to say, let me write another query, because here you can see that we have these two tables, but they are not linked. The question did not request us to link the two, but we can write individual queries. So here we want to select everything. We want to select everything, so you just say select. You can use a join, but since we have already done a question that was dealing with a join, we no longer want to repeat the same thing. But what we're going to do is I will write a different way. I will do it in a different way. I will do it in a different way so that we get full understanding on how it's done using nested select query. So we are saying select table, select what do you want to select? Customer ID. Yes, I think it's customer ID. Customer ID from where? From the table complaint resolve. Table complaint resolve. Yes, from table complaint resolve. Where is that resolve? Resolve. Right. So here we're going to get the complaint IDs, unknown column customer ID. Really? Okay, let me check. Is it the customer ID that I want? No, it's the what? The complaint ID. It's the complaint ID here. It's the complaint ID. Complaint ID. So if I run it, you will see that I get this and that. But now combining these two statements, you can see that this part of number of days is done. Is done here. We've got number of days for everyone, and then here we've got all that. But we can now say, to extend this, we can now say where complaint ID not in, and then we put this statement here. This must then give us, so let me just put not in here. This must give us one record and the number of days for that one record. So this is 9002. Is it the one that, is it the one? Is it the one? Is it the one? Yes. CID 9000 is the one that is not in table complaint resolve. And the number of days, let me check. The number of days is here. So here you can see that it's writing this. So let me change this to have a meaningful column here. Right, and say is number of days. Is number of days, and try it as it is. The results must appear. All right, let me all right, is this must be like that. Let me just remove this. Oh, okay, I did a mistake here. I don't know why I did that. All right, then here this is where I want is number. Let me just say number of days. Right, and run it. Right, number of days 531. So that's the result. Those are the results. So from our manual calculation, we can prove to say this is correct, because this is the only result. This is the only complaint that was not resolved, and the number of days is that. If you calculate 2022 August 13 from 2024 26 January, you can tell that there are 531 days. All right, so that's it for this question. How many marks if we collected? It's another 6 marks. It's another 6 marks, right? And then complaints that were resolved on the same day they were lodged. I think this is the last one for this video. Complaints that were lodged, that were resolved on the same day they were lodged. So this one we are selecting from where? From complaints, table complaints. What are we selecting? Only those that were resolved. So we are selecting anything that exists in both tables, meaning to say we have a join. Anything that exists in here and also exists here, we want it. So what are those? We have 9,000, CID 9,000 and 9,001. These are the only ones that we need. And then we want the one or the ones that were resolved, on the same day they were lodged. So we want to select complaints that exist in both tables but with the same date. So in our case is CID 9000 with date 2022-01-31, which is the one with complaint resolve ID CR003 and complaint ID CID 9000. That's the only one that we need. So what do? We have to join. In this case, we have to join and then put a where clause. So let's go and start typing our query. So this query, I think for people to have access to it, the whole query, I'll do it this way so those who are copying can have access to it. This is the previous query for the 6 marks. Now we are writing another query, and this one needs require us to have a join. So I'm now writing Right, so what I would do is I would just say select. We are selecting from where? From table complaints. Table complaints. Table complaints. Right, let me check the number of hours I have. It's now 35 minutes. Let me stop here and then we'll collect the remaining 3 marks in the next video. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for subscribing, to those that have managed to subscribe. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for paying attention, liking, commenting, and everything else that you have done. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, like, share, and comment. Goodbye for now.